But let's start with net zero and also heat pumps. Now, Minister, have you got a heat pump on your own home?
I'm having one fitted actually at the moment, and to the last point, or one of the points, one of the gentlemen was, it costs about the same as having a boiler put in after you get a grant. There's a boiler upgrade grant, so a bit like happened with cars, with EVs when they first started coming around, and that gets it to around the same price. So I'm doing it to sort of learn about all the complications, and one of your guests was just saying you have to have infrastructure upgrades, including something that's just happened in my garage, which is upgrading the fuse panel. Actually, up to 80 amps was sufficient for both the heat pump and an electric car.
So what's the final bill then, Mr.
Shapps? I won't know that quite yet because they're still doing the survey work, but I expect it will be about £3,000. So Octopus say they can do 2,500 for a standard boiler in a house. British Gas say they can do about £3,000. It's very much similar to fitting a replacement boiler when you get to those levels. But there are a few complications, including making sure that your house is well enough insulated. So that's the process that I'm also having to go through the checks on.
Because Chris Skidmore did a report on this, and he estimated conservatively that it would cost up to £6,000 for people to upgrade their homes to the government's recommended eco standards. Obviously, you're a minister, you're well paid, so £3,000 is probably more affordable. If it's up to £6,000, how on earth do you expect people on minimum wage to come up with this money?
So I think we're conflating two different things, confusing two different things there. One is what Chris Skidmore was talking about was how we insulate homes in order to make them viable for them being able to fit things like heat pumps. The other thing is the cost of the heat pump. As I mentioned, the cost of the heat pump is now coming into line with the cost of replacing your boiler. So we're getting to very similar prices. On the insulation front, we've actually got huge amounts of help coming in, particularly for people on lower incomes. So something like £12 billion, over £12 billion announced and partly spent on making sure those homes are better insulated. Put that into numbers for you. When we came to power, only 14% of homes were sufficiently insulated. Now it's nearly 50% of homes. So that money's been spent and it's working.
But are you concerned by some concerns that have been raised in the week that heat pumps won't heat people's homes as effectively as gas boilers?
Well, I'm going to find out the answer to that. We do already know that heat pumps work at a lower temperature, but they stay on for longer. That's the way that they operate. It does mean that you do need to make sure that the home is reasonably well insulated, and that's why we're putting all this time and energy into insulating homes. And obviously, it's much better not to have to. It's much better not to have to produce more heat if you can just not let the heat escape, so it makes sense to do insulation. But it's not straightforward. I just want to be clear. It's not straightforward. That's why I'm going through the process myself, because I wanted to actually learn about it. We needed a new boiler. I wanted to learn about it and all the complications that do arise. But we do know that we can't rely on gas from, Putin and elsewhere. So we do need to move away, not just for net zero, but for also our own energy security as well.